Welcome everybody to the E2A Flippers Podcast, and today is episode number 1 of this brand new podcast, and I am super excited about this. For folks who don't know me, my name is Steve Rakin. I've been making content for YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all types of reselling content related to eBay and Amazon. I mean, I've literally come from the point of, well, I was dead broke. I was living at home in my parents' house. I was arrested at 21 years old. To make a long story short, I was pretty much a loser. I was broke as a joke. I was trying to figure out a way to be able to start my own business and make money online. And really over the last 10 years, I've tracked and shared my journey of starting from the bottom of, being an eBay seller. I'm not saying being eBay seller is at the bottom, but going to thrift stores, buying and flipping clothes. I flipped bicycles from Craigslist back onto Craigslist back in the day, made $20,000 my first year doing that. But essentially, I've shared my whole entire journey doing this. And I wanted to start a podcast, but not just any podcast. If you take a look at the name of this podcast, it's the E2A Flippers Podcast. Now, what does that stand for? E2A. That's eBay to Amazon. So this is the eBay to Amazon Flippers Podcast. If you want to learn about all different other types of content, different things I do to make money online, different business models, check out my YouTube channel at Rake and Profit. But this specific podcast is all about how to flip items from eBay to Amazon, okay? And over the last 2 years, I've switched up my business model from going to thrift stores like Goodwill, Savers. I used to, again, like I said, buy clothing from thrift stores, sell it on eBay. I would flip bikes on Craigslist. I would do all other types of things, but over the last 2 years, I switched to buying items from eBay.com and flipping it on Amazon FBA. And over the last 2 years, I've done over $750,000 in sales with about a 25 to 30% profit margin. As I scale, my margin is going down a little bit, which I'll talk about, but that's normal as you scale. But over the last year, I've done $550,000. You heard me correctly, $550,000 buying items from eBay.com, having them come to my house, and I'll talk about the process and how this works, and shipping them back out to FBA to make a profit. It's really, really cool. So the goal of this podcast is to create a place for people. I'm not the only one doing this. I've actually helped over 1,500 people inside of my eBay to Amazon masterclass do this over the last couple of years. But I wanted to create a place where we can all talk about how to flip from eBay to Amazon. There's so many podcasts related to thrifting and garage sales and, flea markets and traditional online arbitrage and wholesale and podcasting, private label, right? There is podcasting. Podcasts as well, but there's nothing 100% dedicated to eBay to Amazon. And for the folks who are watching the video version of this right now, if you listen to the podcast, ignore this. But if you see me looking to the left, I'm at my house right now and I'm waiting for a hot tub service provider to come to my house because I literally had a car that went through my house, crashed into my house. We've been living at a hotel the last 2 months. That's a long story. We'll talk about it. But if you see me looking to the left, I have my phone on and I'm looking at the front door to make sure the spa service provider doesn't interrupt this podcast. So just a little side note. So I created this podcast because I want to have a place where I could be able to connect with you guys about eBay to Amazon only. Now, the thing about eBay to Amazon is we're selling on Amazon. So there's a lot of topics to be able to talk about. So there's going to be a lot of topics that even if you do thrifting or retail arbitrage or traditional OA or you're selling on Amazon, there's going to be a lot of value here. But I really want to be able to just laser focus in on eBay to Amazon because that's what I'm the most passionate about right now. And there's a lot of opportunity. So I want to give people access to valuable information related to eBay to Amazon in this podcast while you're maybe driving, or if you're like me, I go on walks every day, I go jogging, bike riding. And the thing about YouTube videos is it rips through your data on your phone. So I want to have a place where you can go and just turn on your favorite, podcast player and listen to eBay to Amazon content. I love this stuff. I live it every single day. And, I want to create a place where people can literally come and rely on good, solid information from folks who are actually doing this regarding eBay to Amazon. So how often will I be posting these podcast sessions. So for now, I'm going to dedicate at least one episode per week. That's the goal. So once a week. I don't have an exact date or time that it's going to get released, but I want to post at least one podcast per week to the E2A Flippers Podcast. I know that's a mouthful right there. We'll get the hang of it. And the episodes are going to, in terms of the format, there's going to be a couple different formats we're going to do. We're going to have like kind of Q&A sessions where maybe a podcast episode just dives deep into maybe a viewer question. And at the end of this podcast, I'll share how you guys can ask questions and possibly be your question hosted on this podcast. But we're going to do Q&A questions. We're going to have some one-on-one episodes by yours truly where I dive deep into a particular topic related to, flipping items from eBay to Amazon. Maybe that's Keepa, maybe that's analyzing deals, maybe that's the best niches, biggest mistakes to avoid. I'm really going to just dive deep into specific, questions and areas that I have learned a lot about, or maybe things I'm struggling with, or challenges, or different things related to virtual assistants. I mean, I have a team of virtual assistants who source all my items for me, sometimes upwards to 1,000 items plus per month. They're buying items from eBay for me in the Philippines, and then they're getting shipped to my house. So yeah, also going to do interviews with friends of mine who do eBay to Amazon, interviews with students from inside the eBay to Amazon masterclass. So it's going to be a pretty, I would say it's going to be a good wide variety of different types of content. And we're going to have fun with this, guys. I love eBay to Amazon. I love answering questions. I love, talking everything to do with eBay to Amazon. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So for folks who want to be able to ask questions, you can head over to rakeandprofit.com/ask Steve. That's rakeandprofit.com/ask Steve. So if you have a question, go over there, ask a question, and I'm going to start answering them on this podcast. So let's get into the episode. I want to talk a little bit about what E2A flipping is for the folks who don't know what it is. It's not drop shipping. You might be thinking it's drop shipping. I want to talk about why I quit thrifting and retail arbitrage, about 99%. I do a little, but why I quit it and why I really scaled eBay to Amazon, why I decided not to go into traditional online arbitrage. That's what a lot of folks, want to do. They want to get into traditional online arbitrage, which I have a lot of friends who do it. I have a lot of folks who are successful, but I decided not to do it, and I'm going to share why. And then I'm kind of going to just talk a little bit about, will I ever go into traditional OA or wholesale or private label, and why I love eBay to Amazon flipping. So let's dive right into things. So what is E2A flipping and how does it work? So E2A stands for eBay to Amazon. Okay. Flipping is, the act of buying an item and flipping it. Okay. So what we're doing is we're buying physical products. Okay. Items like DVDs and books and board games, electronics. I mean, I'll have a whole episode on the different types of items that I flip and pick up, items I love to flip, items maybe I stay away from. But essentially, we source items from eBay.com. Okay, these are physical products that get shipped directly to my house or a prep center. I would say about 95% of my students are having items shipped to their house. 5% do utilize a prep center, which we'll talk about in the future. Now, once the items are shipped to my house or your house, we're going to prep them, we're going to inspect them, we're going to list them, price them, all the good stuff. We'll talk about that again in a future episode. I'm pumped up, guys. We have a lot of episodes we're going to cover, and we ship them to Amazon FBA. So it's really no different than thrifting or traditional online arbitrage or going to a garage sale. I mean, we are still, flipping items on Amazon, right? I utilize Amazon FBA, Fulfillment by Amazon, because I love that. It gives me the opportunity to leverage my time, and I don't have to be shipping items one by one every day. But that's it. The only difference with E2A versus thrifting or wholesale is just how we're sourcing from a supplier. Instead of thrift store being a supplier, or garage sale, or a wholesale supplier, we're buying our items from eBay. And the reason I quit thrifting and RA, well, there's a lot here. But number one, I got into a car accident a couple of years ago. To make a long story short, I had a bunch of anxiety. I was always looking back in my rearview mirror. I was freaking out all the time. And, I've dealt with anxiety and depression my whole life. But after getting into that accident on a highway, I got smashed by a massive truck. I was okay, but it really mentally scarred me. And I found myself always looking in the rear view and being scared of being on highways. And luckily I had a Toyota Tacoma pickup truck. And even 2 years later, I'm still like, I drive my girlfriend insane because when we drive, like I'm always freaking out. I'm paranoid because it's like I know what could happen, and I'm literally lucky to be alive. But again, I quit thrifting in RA because first of all, I was trying to scale my business, but I had to drive all around town to different thrift stores and all over the state to auctions and flea markets. And I just needed a better way to be able to have inventory, get listed in my Amazon account. Like I didn't want to have to drive all around and hunt all around town. Like I wanted it to come to me. Then there was a time aspect. I mean, thrifting and driving all around town, especially as the years go on, I've been doing this for 10 years. It's way more competitive. So the time that it took me to have to drive all around and get all the inventory, it just wasn't a great balance in my life for my mental health, for my physical health. And I have a lot of different things going on. I'll talk about it in some future businesses. Competition was increasing like crazy. And the ultimate issue was scalability. I just had a really hard time scaling my business because sourcing from all these different thrift stores and whatnot was very inconsistent. Some days would be amazing. Some days would be terrible. So that's why I quit RA. And I decided not to go into traditional online arbitrage because I felt like everybody was doing it. Like it kind of seemed boring to me, like shopping from like big box online stores and like stacking coupons and whatnot. And I had a lot of friends who were doing it. And it seemed like a lot of them were putting up big numbers, but it's like most of them were always broke. It seemed like a lot of them were putting up these big orange bars and making a ton of money, but it didn't seem like they ever had anything to show for it because, and I'm not an expert when it comes to traditional OA. I can only share what I see, what I witness, but it seems like a lot of guys were making a lot of money, ladies too, but they had nothing to show because they were just, the margins are kind of small. You have to put all your money back into the business, and the same does go for eBay to Amazon, but the margins are way higher. And it just seemed like there was so much price tanking. There was smaller margins. And it really didn't scratch my itch of like thrifting and buying and flipping. Like for me, I like to be more like in the game. Like I want to touch the products. I don't know, like when you're thrifting, you're dealing with board games and video games and stuff like that. And I felt like with just OA, especially with the price tanking, it just wasn't for me. Will I do it in the future? Maybe. I think there's opportunities there, especially during Q4. But for me personally, the E2A really scratched my itch. So I want to share 5 reasons why I decided to do eBay to Amazon. Number 1, the competition is much lower. Most people think you can't do eBay to Amazon. They think you're going to get kicked off. They think Amazon's going to ban you instantly. And we'll have an episode coming up soon about the risks because there are risks involved with E2A. But the competition is much lower. The ROI and profit margins are amazing. Okay. Probably, I would say even 2 to 3 times the profit margins for compared to traditional OA. Now, as I scale, I can't say that my margins are 2 to 3x. I mean, I would say 2x is probably pretty safe to say. But a lot of times like OA folks, they'll end up having a 15, 20% margin where E2A, I mean, a lot of times you could have 40, 50, 60% margins. Now, again, do I break that rule sometimes? Absolutely. Because as I've grown my E2A business, I have a lot of leads and I have a lot of replenishable items where I'm okay with taking 25 or 30% just because I've sold it a bunch of times. But lower competition, ROI and profits are a lot higher. It scratched my thrifting itch. Like I literally feel like when I'm sitting on eBay and sourcing, and nowadays I actually have a team of VAs who do it. I don't even do it anymore. Sometimes I do. But I feel like it scratched my itch because a lot of the items I would find at thrift stores, guess what? I was buying them from eBay and flipping them on Amazon. I love that I could do it from home. I could be drinking a glass of wine. I could be hanging out at the house. I could do it anytime. I don't have to leave the house. I mean, the downside is I did gain a bunch of weight over the last 2 years. And I do contribute a lot of that to not going out thrifting and not being as active. So I'm in the process now I'm on day number 10 at the time of this recording of my new health plan and my diet plan because I have to get myself back in shape. Like I have really blown up over the last couple of years. So I would say that's a downside. But I love that you can do it from home. I don't have to drive all around town. I mean, I can literally leverage systems, processes, and software to source this stuff from home. And it just seems like it's way easier. It's not even, it seems like I've done it. It's way easier. I'll say it right now to scale doing E2A compared to thrifting and going to garage sales. Now, are you going to have the margins like a thrift store or a garage sale when it comes to E2A? No, absolutely not. Like, you're not going to be able to buy an item on eBay for $5 and flip it for 300. You could do that at a thrift store or a garage sale. Is it as fun as like going to a thrift store or garage sale? I would say no, it's not as fun. You're not like in there hunting, but you are hunting in a sense on eBay. And I'm going to get a lot into it over these next couple episodes, and we're going to have a lot of fun. So yeah, that's it, guys. Welcome to episode number 1 of the E2A Flippers Podcast. We're going to have fun with this. Expect an episode each and every week. You could also check this out on YouTube. I'm not exactly sure if I'm going to put the full episodes on YouTube or just clips. I know YouTube did come out with like a podcast area, so I am recording this via video right now, so we'll see what I decide to do. I don't know if this is going to translate over well in video, but all my mentors said make sure you record a video as well, not only the podcast. So obviously the podcast will be up, on all the different podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple, so on and so forth. We'll get them all up. But yeah, again, guys, if you have any questions regarding E2A, head over to rakeandprofit.com/asksteve. That's Ask Steve. And we're going to put like a little Google form up. You can ask a question, share your name, give maybe a backstory of yourself and a question, and we'll answer that in an upcoming podcast. So with that being said, appreciate you all. If you enjoyed this, if you're excited about this content, go over to Apple and leave a review. It will really help out a lot to be able to get this podcast out more, to be able to help more people. And I just want to say thanks, everybody. This journey over the last 10 years, if you've been following me, has been amazing. There's still a ton of opportunities, and I'm more excited now in 2023 going into 2024 than I was in 2015. It's just an abundance of opportunities to make money online. So I hope to be able to serve you all. With that being said, much love. Appreciate you guys, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.